So let's look at a very common data type that you will be using quite a lot. So we are familiar with int, we're familiar with double, we're familiar with char. Let's get a chance to interact with the string data type. Okay. So what is a string? A string is simply a collection of individual characters. Okay, so you can think of a character being inside one of our boxes. So every character, one box, okay, including the space. So the space is also a valid and appropriate box in this instance. So I have hello, a box for a space, and Belize. Okay, so that is a string, and a string again allows us to use multiple boxes, okay, multiple characters that form a word or a sentence, and we refer to all those boxes using one name. Okay, so in this case, I am saying that the H, the E, the L, the L, and the O collectively as a group is referred to by the variable name message. Okay, so when I want to create a string, I will say string message equal, and in double quotes, whatever I want the string to be. Now, there's something very important about the string type, and that is since each of the characters are in their own individual boxes, we are also able to address or access each of those individual characters. Now, we do that by using what is called an index. Okay, an index. So indices, which is a plural, they start from 0 and they're always a whole number. So if I have hello, then the H is at position 0, the E is at position 1, and so on, and finally the O is at position 4. Okay, so I can access each of these characters one by one by simply specifying the index. So all I have to do, put the name, okay, of the string, right, a square bracket, and inside the square bracket the index, and the computer will give me back the appropriate character. Let's look at another example. Okay, so I have this string called x, and it says I am full stop. And so if I were to look at that from the box point of view, I would have I, an empty box, am, and a full stop. Okay, so what would x0 give me? Well, I know that this first one is 0, so I know I should get an I. The dot is where? Okay, so if I were to ask for the dot, I would have to say x what? What would the number in here have to be? Well, that's easy enough. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I expect that if I say x4, I will get back the dot. Okay, so this is how we get the individual parts of a string. Okay, now whenever you're working with strings, there is a very important recipe or algorithm that you should be mindful of, and that is how do you get the length of the string. Okay, or let me say that again. How do you find the last character in a string? That's what I wanted to say. How do you find the last character in a string? So given a string, right, it could be something like I am full stop. It could be something like hello. Given any string, how do you know what the last character is? It turns out that there's an algorithm for that, and it has 3 steps. Step 1, you need to get the length of the string using the length function. Okay, You then subtract 1 from that length that is given back to you. And then finally, you use that number as the index. So let's look at that and see what it looks like. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, we don't need this. And I'm using Replit simply because I want to be a bit quick. I don't want the video to go too long. Okay, I'll make the screen larger. So I'm going to create a string. Let's call it maybe alpha. Okay, and it contains the string. Okay, the variable alpha contains a string. Where is the ball? Full stop. Okay, all right, let me remove the full stop. I'll leave it as that. So by inspection, we can see that the last character is an L, but the computer does not have eyes. So we have to tell the computer how to find that L. Okay. So to do that, all we have to do is to, and I'm going to do it in one line. Okay. So, well, actually, let me do it in 2 ways so you understand how I make it shorter. So I'm going to say index. So I'm going to say int index is alpha, name of the variable, dot length. Okay, this gives me how many characters are in the string. So the computer will check how many, including the spaces. So the spaces are also characters. Now this will give me back an answer, and then I know I need to subtract 1. Okay, and that will be the index of the last character, the L. And so now I can create a character. I can say char last, and it will be alpha square bracket index. Okay, and that will give me the actual answer. So if I were to say cout last, okay, all right, if I do that, I should be able to see the L. Let's run it. Okay, we get the L. Now that's quite a bit of steps, right? I have to find the length -1. Then I have to use that for the index and then print it. Let me try to make it a bit shorter. Let me comment these out. Okay, so in practice, after a while, you'll be able to do something like this. Cout. Okay, and then you'll simply say name of the variable, square bracket, name of the variable, name of the variable, dot length -1, and then put a new line, \n. Okay, so these 3 lines can be put into one line. I get the length, which will give me the number of the length. I subtract 1, which will end up being the final answer here, index. And then I'll say alpha, whatever I get for the index. And then I just print that. Okay, so you can print the character by simply doing it directly within the cout. Okay, so this is exactly the same as this one line. So eventually you will move from 3 lines to 1. So if we run it again, notice that we also get L. All right, so that's what I wanted to discuss when it comes to that. Let's keep going. Okay. So again, to summarize, a string is simply a collection of characters, including white space, right, if there are any. And each of the characters are individually accessible by using the square bracket notation. And a string allows you to ask it for its length by using the length function. Okay, and whenever you're asked to find the last character in a string, it doesn't matter how long the string is, you always follow this recipe, this algorithm. You get the length, you subtract 1, and then you use that as the index for the variable, just as we did here. All right, so this was a short video. We now have everything we need in terms of the fundamentals. We understand strings, we understand ints, we understand doubles, we understand chars. We're pretty much set. So now we can go a bit deeper into using these fundamentals to solve bigger problems, more complex problems, more interesting problems. I'll see you in those.